intricacies of tax and GST, and also the whole management side of it when you're managing a team of people. You really just kind of do the best you can and learn on the job. And a number of articles on publications like Kama Sutra are really helpful to give you an overview of the indie business, but I haven't found anything that really describes what you need to do unless you actually have to do it.
I actually came from the flip side of the coin. Sector 3 was actually an animation and visual effects studio for about 12 years before I got all that started making games. So I was well versed with the business side of things, and found that to be quite helpful because it wasn't for me like a daunting thing or a deterrent. It was just something that I did naturally anyway. And there's a lot of advantages to understanding even the basics of small business, especially when it comes to things like getting a good accountant, or at least knowing what things are tax deductible for yourself. It's very easy to overspend when you're indie, especially when you have to live off the money you got coming in. You can't always use freeware tools. You can't always get by on the cheap. And so I think it's really important to have that basic understanding of what you're getting involved in the business side of things. I know it can seem daunting, but it's definitely something, guys, if you want to do it, you should embrace. So,
that said, I completely neglected the business side of things. I'm a terrible one to ask about this. It even came down to the point of, looking at those funding opportunities that are out there and seeing paperwork to be done, and I just said, no thanks. I'd much rather do this on my own, and I've managed to, build a successful business without any assistance from the government. In my opinion, founding a game studio, this isn't necessarily something you should have to learn, and I would appreciate some of the government funding bodies actually stripped out a lot of that paperwork and just managed to take a look at the game design as a game designer and say, you've definitely got something here, you should go for it, and have them manage more than what we have to.
Yeah, if I can just add with that, the government funding for me was necessary to be able to work on the game full time and get it out in a reasonable period, and also pay contractors that were required. I've got a family to support and a mortgage and very real costs that if I don't meet, we won't eat, we'll be out on the street. So to even have that opportunity, those funding options, even though they are daunting, I found that I had to put in the hard yards because I didn't have a choice either way.
I simply sidestepped that by living on my parents' sheet phone.
And also the printing out 10 copies, Andrew?
I'd like to thank Arthur Kouros, who actually did that for me. Arnie used to be the creative director or studio manager at Tantalus, and he's actually one of the main reasons I applied for Film Big funding in the first place, because he took a look at my application when I was about to give up, and he said, no, have a go, and I can help you with that kind of stuff. So it's been a great help.
Whereas I went through about 10 printer cartridges. Okay, so moving on, Andrew just touched on this very briefly about contractors and outsourcing outfits for his projects. I mean, these guys, they do wear lots of hats, but at the same time there are certain skill sets which they just don't have. So what I'd like to know is, how have you guys found working with contractors and other collaborators, and the kind of elements of trust that must be involved in those kind of relationships?
I did everything myself.
For our current project, I'm working in a team of 3. So there's me, who's doing the business and design, and we also have a programmer and an artist on board. I'm of the opinion, and it is an opinion, that if you're not really, really good at something, you should try at the very least find someone who is really good at it, because having a stellar effort out of all the elements of a product, especially a video game, is very important. So if you can find someone who can do art better than you, and is willing to kind of invest in your trust and in the vision of the game, then by all means you should have them on board. Offer them a profit share, pay them if you need to, but best to have things done as good as possible rather than done half
And Andrew, Jolly Rover, I mean, you had many people working on that. How did you bring that all together?
Well, telling people what to do isn't something I find difficult. But what is difficult is getting across your vision and you know, and having them, you know, share the same picture that you have in your head. And this is the same with audio as it is for art. And I was driven mainly by cost for a lot of things, and in that case I had to set very hard and fast requirements for how many times I would ask things to be redone. I mean, not everything in Jolly Rover is exactly to the spec that I would have liked, but I set the requirements such that I would only ask for things to be redone 3 times, and if it wasn't right then, it would just have to go in and we'd have to move on. And that was really important, just to keep the thing moving, because you can get really stuck on the details, and sometimes you really just have to let go.
I did very little outsourcing while I was working by myself. I tried a couple of times. I got some art done, some sprite sheets, stuff like that. But I found that I ended up either I was just choosing the wrong people, or I ended up doing most of it myself anyway, or something about the design evolved between commissioning it and release. So I tended to be working on projects that I could do all the stuff myself. I didn't do any music creation. That was paid for or contracted out, but all the actual sound working integration was done on as well. It really depends on why you're doing it. I mean, I wanted to make my own games, and I wanted to do all the aspects of the game myself. That was one of my challenges. I also picked really stupid games to do that with, because I picked, as we said, all my first 5 titles were 3D titles, and way bigger scope than they should have been, and ended up being an 80% quality game because of the scope, than 100% smaller game. That's a before you fall into really easily.
If I can just add to that, the only thing I ever wanted to do was write and design games, but unfortunately you have to do a lot of other things to get to that just one little thing that you want to do, and so a lot of what you do in indie businesses is just doing what you got to do the one thing that you really want to do. And I would be quite happy if I could find someone to take over the business side and just let me do the cool art creative side. But until that happens, it's what I have to do out of necessity.
Yeah, I started out wanting to use contracts. I never planned to do everything myself. But a couple of months into the project, I just had this idea of how far can I take this on my own. And I hadn't drawn since before, so I just started to draw. And again, just having the time just meant I got it almost all the way. I eventually gave up and didn't bother doing the sound and music for the first title. I did the sound for the next couple of titles.
And just quickly, I mean, I'm sure there's loads of people out in the audience here that are looking to, do their own projects. Has anybody got any advice on where they can go to seek people to do, the contract work for them if they're looking for artists or musicians or?
I think, personally, I think it's one of the biggest areas that you can actually find good, talented people is communities. So I found the artist for the MindQuest on T Samir. I posted I need an artist post on that site, and I got a few calls back, and the one that I ended up going with was him. So communities can sometimes give even better results than if you started searching studios and started making cold calls to those kind of places.
I came from industry, I worked at 4 different games companies, and I knew a lot of cool people that I really wanted to work with, but I couldn't persuade them to leave their stable jobs and come and work for me. So I found that because my particular genre is point-and-click adventure that I'm really passionate about, there is a really strong community around that kind of genre. People are just desperate to work on those kind of games. So I found that enthusiast forums, adventure game enthusiast forums, were really good to find people. I mean, I ultimately didn't find people from there. They found everyone from Victoria for the Film Vic funding. But indiegamer.com is another really great resource, and especially because their forum only allows you to post paid jobs on there. So it actually attracts people that professionals that will work for a way it can be very, very professional. And I found that before I actually made Jolly Rover, I used a couple of contractors just to get the art style right before I pitched the game, and you get what you pay for. There are a few gems that you find in terms of art and audio, but the experience counts for an awful lot.
I think I'd just like to add there as well, make use of these conferences, not just to come and sit and listen to us gibber on, but go into Experomedia and chat to people and find out, who was the artist that did the art for your game, because that person is probably just a contractor who might be looking for more work. So.
Hello, I'm just curious about where you absolutely would not scrimp in terms of subcontracting. Where would you absolutely make sure that you have the best of the best?
Well, in my case, it was voice acting, and that was an area that can really make or break a game. So I knew that I had to spend a little bit extra on the voice acting to get the job done right. The art was very important and a necessary component, but I knew that if the art may have had a few rough edges, people would live with that. But if the voice acting was horrible, then people would just be turning it up in droves.
Cool. Okay. We're going to move on to another subject here. You guys, you've either got an office or you work from home, and you spend a lot of time just you and your monitor, having fun. Maybe making a cup of tea is an exciting time for you. So you spend a lot of time isolated. How do you guys cope with that? And I'm going to aim that one straight at Matt, because you live on a sheep farm.
I do. Yeah. And then it's just me. This was a pretty big issue for me. Like, my mum and dad and wife and 20-month-old daughter don't know a lot about video games. And so if I had an idea, I can't exactly bounce it to them or show them what I'm working on. And a few times I did, I got back feedback which I didn't want to hear. So I found it's really important to keep contact online with old workmates and things like that, people I can trust enough, and just talk to them, not even necessarily about the game I'm working on, but just maintain personal contact. Just to help. I mean, Edenhope, the town I live on, is 4.5 hours west of here, and it's quite a drive to come and have a face-to-face with anyone, so it's really out of the question. I probably only came to know probably 3 or 4 times during the development of little things to catch up with people. It is really difficult. You do go absolutely stir crazy when there's no feedback there. You have to. I constantly had to imagine myself playing different roles. Like I have my 7-year-old lady Pat. How's she going to feel about this game? And then how's a 7-year-old going to feel about this game? Because one of my goals was to make a game that could be played by anyone. And pretending to be a 7-year-old lady for too long, I definitely didn't recommend it. But it did help make the game better.
Yeah. For me, the two key things about being isolated, I mean, I had a wife and I had a daughter that was under 12 months at the time, there was no sounding board or devil's advocate. And what happens is you get very attached to your game, you get very attached to your ideas, whether they turn out to be good or not, and you really need some type of sounding board to throw things at, to hear feedback. And generally, asking your wife or asking someone that really has no interest in games or no real understanding of what you're doing to offer their constructive feedback generally puts you in a place that you hear things you don't want to hear. The other thing for me was I had a lot of highs as a one-man band and a lot of lows as well, and it really sucks when you can't celebrate the highs or